Analitička kuća IDC krajem aprila organizovala je konferenciju posvećenu trenutno vrućim temama u IT svetu, virtuelizaciji i takozvanim zelenim sistemima za smeštanje podataka. Skup nazvan Virtual Changes, Real Savings, Brighter Future okupio je veliki broj zainteresovanih koji su od eminentnih svetskih stručnjaka mogli da saznaju nešto više o novim IT trendovima. Jedan od njih bio je Rajiv Arunkundram, predstavnik Microsofta, koji je specijalno za ovu priliku došao iz centrale kompanije u Redmondu. Nakon zapaženog predavanja, Arunkundram je ekskluzivno za čitaoce internet ogledala i posetioce našeg video kanala govorio na temu virtualizacije.
Virtualization is an interesting technology. So essentially what virtualization does is abstract one layer of the IT infrastructure from the next layer. The ones that Microsoft focuses on is like storage, server virtualization, application virtualization, presentation virtualization. The place where it really helps customers today is around consolidation. That's usually where most customers get into virtualization. It's about the concept of taking 2 or 3 or 4 different physical servers and consolidating them on one physical server while running all the workloads simultaneously. So in the older term, there used to be hardware partitioning that used to get customers to do that the same way, but it needed specialized hardware. With virtualization now being available as a software technology, any standard x86 server or x64 server in our case actually qualifies to be a good platform for virtualization.
In which way virtualization reduces the cost for a business?
So the predominant thing where customers will see benefit, which is very apparent, is when they do server virtualization as a technology, then it's about taking all of these physical servers, consolidating it. So the places where customers will see cost benefits is around hardware savings, because they will go from possibly 20 servers down to 5 servers. So 15 servers, the cost of hardware of those 15 servers is a direct cost saving. The power and cooling consumption of those 15 servers is a direct cost saving. With application virtualization, it's more around things like you can now run 2 or 3 or 4 different applications in the same platform, which previously you could not do. So there's again hardware savings and there's management savings. The place where, as customers go through virtualization, the big area where they're going to see benefits is around manageability.
What are the key Microsoft technologies and approach to virtualization?
From a technology standpoint, we look at it a few different layers in technology. Today, everybody talks about server virtualization, and we have a couple of solutions in that space with virtual server and now with Hyper-V as a part of Windows Server 2008. From an application virtualization standpoint, we have SoftGrid or Microsoft Application Virtualization, which is a technology that helps in the client app-to-app incompatibility issues. And then we have presentation virtualization in the form of terminal services. The way Microsoft looks at virtualization from a technology standpoint is to bring all of these different kinds of technologies together with management technology that helps you manage from the data center to the desktop and from the physical world along with the virtual world in one unified platform. But the bigger perspective that Microsoft is looking at as it looks at virtualization is not only to solve the infrastructure technology needs and the management technology needs, but also look at like licensing impact, interoperability impact, and support impact. So there's a lot of effort at Microsoft to actually solve some of those challenges too.
What would you say, why is Microsoft different from the competition in that sense?
So traditionally, the competition today is in pockets of areas in terms of where they're good at. So there are certain competition that's really good at server virtualization, there's certain competition that's really good at application virtualization and things like that. Microsoft's unique value proposition is that we can address most of these technology gamuts with different solutions, and feature function wise, I think it's getting commoditized from the platform layer at this point. IDC in today's keynote also mentioned similar concepts about hypervisors becoming commoditized and the market is moving towards the next stage. The place where Microsoft adds true value is around management, and that's where we are really different than the rest of the competition in the sense that we can not only monitor the virtualization layer and the workloads on the virtualization layer, but we can also have deep insight into what the workloads are doing, if it's a SQL server or an Exchange server, and how those actually work together.
Kada se govori o izazovima koje donosi virtualizacija, korisnici će morati pre svega da se suoče sa 3 glavne izazova.
Customers are going to face, I think, 3 primary challenges as they look at virtualization. The first one is around how do you identify what the right set of virtualization technologies are. Do you use application virtualization to solve a problem? Do you use server virtualization? Do you use a combination of it? That's going to be one of the customers' primary problems as they look at the bleeding between server virtualization and client virtualization and what needs to happen there. In terms of the next step, the thing that they're going to also look at is how do you identify what are good candidates for virtualization and go through that process of virtualization. And then the last one that most customers are looking at as challenge and the biggest inhibitor to adoption of virtualization today is around support, licensing, and the overall ecosystem from broad ISVs. So not only just the application layer or the operating system, but also like what is happening to supportability of those applications, skill set in the partner channel to implement those. So those are kind of the three big areas where customers are going to see challenges today.
There is a big movement in going green today. What does that mean in the virtualization world? Do you have any? Can you tell us about connection? Is there a connection?
Virtualization adds a certain element of helping going green because you have the direct impact of the fact that you've consolidated servers, so you have lesser physical hardware, which means you're using lesser power, lesser cooling requirements. But there are other things that are broader than just virtualization that actually help with going green. Like there are things in Windows Server 2008 that help you do CPU throttling and power throttling so that you're actually not consuming too much of the idle hardware capacity and not drawing too much power. So it's a combination of what the operating systems are doing, what virtualization can do, but also in terms of processes and policies that customers adopt throughout their IT infrastructure that's going to help them go and become more greener as they look into the future.
Kada je u pitanju dalje strategija Microsofta u pogledu virtualizacije, Arunkundram kaže:
Our strategy is to look at virtualization as a key enabling technology for dynamic IT. Dynamic IT is a concept where IT infrastructure goes from being managed, being in this world where you install an application and if you want to make changes, you either reinstall it or go through and manually configure the changes, to a world where you have models and model-driven deployment of applications and workloads, and you have management tools that read those models and act accordingly. So you have policy-based management, and virtualization becomes the underlying infrastructure layer that actually enables all of this to happen in a dynamic fashion.